let's talk about sending messages to users in Telegram Expert. To do that, we go to the left side menu to Sending SMS, and down here you see that there's a module called Sending SMS. This is sending messages by usernames. Below that you have Sending SMS by ID, and then below that you also have Open Dialogues. But let's talk about Sending SMS first. I'm going to talk about all the different settings first, and after that I'm going to demonstrate how the whole module works. But there are a lot of settings to fiddle around with. It's a very flexible module. For example, just look at the Working with Text section. You can modify the text, you can paste links, you can repost from other channels, you can send photos and audio messages, you can even set up sending messages through a post bot. There's lots of options over here, so let's go over them briefly. When it comes to who to send messages to, you have two options. You can either copy and paste a list of usernames just right over here in this right text box, or you can use an existing database by clicking Use Base Data if you already have a database ready for this. Now on to the general settings. SMS per account refers to the number of messages that each individual account will send. Then you have delay, which is the delay between each individual message. Notice that there is a minimum and a maximum for both of these, meaning that you can set a range for the program to choose randomly between. So, for example, if you set the SMS per account to 20 to 30, that means that when the task is running, each account will choose anywhere between 20 and 30 messages to send, chosen at random. And if you set the delay to 5 to 10 seconds, then during the task, the module will choose between 5 and 10 seconds between messages. And then we have maximum wait time, flood wait. This is for if one of your accounts catches a flood. This is the maximum time that the module will wait before canceling the task. Here is where you select your accounts. And then we have force number of SMS sends. Now, typically in a list of usernames, sometimes you'll have usernames that are invalid or maybe they don't even exist. But if you click force number of SMS sends, then the module will definitely try to send the indicated number of messages to all of those usernames regardless. And it will take that number very literally. If you have, for example, 25 usernames on the list, but you've indicated to send to only 20, then it will only send to those 20, and that's it. So pay attention to that. Next up, we have preview links. This is for if you have links in your messages, if you'd like those links to be previewed beforehand. Then after that, we have silent mode. This is to send messages without making a sound. Normally, when you send messages through the client, there's like a little ding that happens. But with silent mode, you can go without that sound. After that, we have direct sending. This is to send messages directly without doing what would normally happen. Normally, if you don't have the setting turned on, the accounts will set up a private chat, then they will post your message into it, and then send it as a repost to all the usernames. So each individual account makes its own private chat, posts your message, and then sends it over. Direct messaging means they bypass all that and just send the message directly. Then you have sending by time, where you can actually indicate the exact date and time that you want this message to be sent. Here I can show you in the client. You can type the message in and see you can set the specific date and time. Then you have thread management, which allows you to stem the flow of the number of accounts you're processing at a time. If, for example, you have 1,000, this allows you to only have it work with like 20 or 30 at a time to cut down on processing power. And then you have run control. This is actually the setting you can use to have your module repeat this task however many times you want. You see here that you can choose the number of starts. This is how many times it will repeat it. And then below you can see the delay, how long it'll wait between sequences. So the module will send the indicated number of messages to the indicated usernames with the indicated delays. And then once it's done, it will wait 10 seconds and then start up again. And it'll do this 5 times. That's how it's written here. And lastly, we have auto stop, which would tell the module to stop this task if it meets any of these 3 conditions. For example, with bans, let's say that you're sending these messages through to the usernames and there's lots of complaints about spam or anything like that, and your accounts are catching bans. You can indicate here, for example, 3, and so if 3 of your accounts get bans, the task will just stop right there. And it's the same thing for spam block and flood weight. If you set a number there, then if that thing happens that number of times, then the program will just stop. Then you have emergency shutdown. Normally, even if you auto-stop a task, it'll still finish up some sequences and some things. Emergency shutdown is just a complete, immediate stop. All right, let's open up the desktop client. And let's go ahead and copy this username. And that's the username that we're going to be sending messages to. So let's say that we're only going to send one message, and since we're just dealing with one username, we don't need a delay, so just 1 second. Then we select the account, and this is the one that we'll be sending messages from. So let's go ahead and pick it. And here is the message that we want to send. And let's say that we want to make this one bold. This one can be italicized. Here, let's do monospace. And we'll leave one as normal for the reference. Okay, so we can start. And now the program is going to connect and send the message. And there we go. And remember that we didn't choose direct sending. So what it actually did was it made a private chat first and then did the repost in it. So here's what it looks like if we do direct sending. See, it's just a straight up message now. So yeah, here's how all of the aesthetic options look. Now let's go ahead and try to put a link in our message. Here's what that'll look like. First you write in what the text will look like, and then you put in the URL that you want that text to link to. And by the way, on the right side here you have message view, so you can preview what the message will look like before you send it. And here's our message with the link. So this is how you can embed links into your messages. As mentioned before, you can also send images this way. So you gotta open up the menu here by clicking the icon. And from here, you can either post a link from a website or upload some images of your own. So let's say that we upload 3 different images. Here's the thing. If you have more than one image, then the module will choose one of those images to send at random from the list. By the way, this is the only way to check your uploaded images. It's not going to show up in the message view, only the text. So yeah, if you do direct sending, then the module chooses one of the images that you've uploaded at random and sends that one. Here, we're going to launch it. And you see that it chose one of the 3 images at random and sent that one. This is going to be a little different if we don't have direct sending on, because in that instance, it's going to choose one of those images, create a chat with that image, and then send it to all of those usernames. So that's the big difference. If you do direct sending, then every time it sends the message, it'll choose one of those images at random per message. But if you don't have direct sending, it'll choose one of the 3 images at random once, and then send that image to everyone on the list. And the same is actually true for text as well. By the way, this module does support syntax, meaning that you can program different options into your text. So let's say we use our brackets here to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The way that we formatted it here means that one of these 5 numbers will be chosen at random and sent over. And let's say that we also add a hi and hello variable as well. And you see I can even test it out in message view. You see that it chooses one of the 5 numbers at random and one of the messages at random. And here's what this looks like in practice. So here's our message, and you see that it chose one of the 5 numbers at random and hi or hello at random as well. And if we add another set of variables, like 0, 8, 9, we can demonstrate further. Okay, let's click Start. Sometimes it takes a while for the interface to catch up. And there it is, 3 hi 0. We're only sending one message at a time, so it may not be extremely clear. But with direct messaging, every time it tries to send a message, it'll choose new variables at random. Whereas if you don't have direct messaging, it will choose these variables once, create the chat, and then forward that message to all the usernames. And all of this applies just the same to the other thing that you can send, which is audio messages. You upload those the same way that you upload photos. Here, we're going to pick our account. And then we go to the file dropper. And here, once again, we can either link to a source on a website, or we can upload our own. Though keep in mind that the file type has to be .ogg for this to work. So just make sure that it's that file type. Here we're only going to choose one, but again, if you have multiples, then with direct sending, it'll be random every time per message. Without direct sending, it'll be chosen at random once, and then that's the one that'll be sent to all the accounts. Okay, let's go ahead and start it up then. And there's our audio message. Because we didn't choose direct sending, it is a repost. So now let's have a look at what it looks like with direct sending. So there you go. Practically the message is the same. But that's all you need to know about this module. As you can see, it's pretty simple, and yet you have so many great customization options to really send the messages that you want to send. All right, let's move on to the other 2 modules. And I think let's talk about open dialogues first before we go to sending SMS by ID. Instead of being given a prescribed list or a database of usernames to go on, this module checks which dialogues the account you're using is currently engaged in and sends messages to those dialogues specifically. So let's say that we put in the address to google.com. We can set the delay to 1 second. Also here we can quote post if we want to. But generally, all the rest of the settings are the same as with sending SMS. Because this account is currently engaged in only one dialogue, this is the only place that this module will send our message. And here is our message in plain text, embedded as a link because it is a URL. But what if we'd like to have a preview for the link? Well, for that, we gotta click on Preview Links. And here's what that'll look like. So there you go, a nice preview to the link with the header image. And here is that exact same link as just a regular link without the preview. And there it is. Alright then, let's move on to our last module, Send SMS by ID. In terms of the actual messaging, you have all the same tools and all the same options as with the other two. The only functional difference is the way that it chooses where to send messages. One of the features we haven't talked about yet is repost with channel. So just like with photos and audio files, you can also set up a bunch of links from certain channels and post those in the same way. They're right here in this little arrow, and then you just copy the links. And the same stuff I talked about before with direct sending and indirect sending applies here as well if you have multiple links. So keep that in mind. Because this module uses IDs, it can only function with an existing database of IDs plugged in. So let's open up our database and take a look. By the way, in order to use Send SMS by ID, or when working with IDs in general, one of the things you'll definitely need is a chat donor, which is the source of those IDs. So here is our list of users, but these will only be accessible to your accounts through the chat donor. So your accounts will be going into the chat donor, finding these users, and then sending your messages. Alright, let's demonstrate. Let's choose 3 messages per account, set a delay at 2 seconds, and let's choose direct sending for this one. Okay, let's click Start. Because we're dealing with chat donors, one of the other options you have is to leave donor group after the task is complete. So it sends all the messages and then leaves. That's an option you have if you wanted to. And there we go, task complete. Now let's take a look at the activity log so we can see step by step exactly what happened. You see that the module first joined the group, found 3 users in that group, sent 3 messages, waited 3 seconds, then sent the message as a repost, waited, sent the next message as a repost, waited, sent the next message as a repost, and then completed the task. And the final result is that our link has been sent to 3 new users. And because we didn't tell it to leave the groups afterwards, they're still in the groups. So as you can see, it's a pretty responsive module and also a very accountable one, as once all these tasks are complete, there's an activity log and there's a database that you can always refer to so you can see exactly what happened at what time and take your results from there. And as mentioned before, there are lots of tools available to you to really customize the message the way you want it to. This is especially true when you're combining different sources together. So for example, if we do text and photos, so I've written hello, hi, and I'm going to upload another photo. Then I select my account. Make sure I've got the right user selected. And I'm going to choose direct sending as well. And here's what it'll look like. This is, of course, a very basic application. Once you learn the tools a bit better, I'm sure you can come up with something much more creative. But as mentioned before, at the end of each task, the module automatically makes a database for future reference. And it always comes in two files, the base and send, or send ID, depending on which task you used. Right now, we're looking at the send ID database. And here we can see a full breakdown of exactly which account sent a message to which account, and even specifically what was in that message. Was there text? Was there a link? Was there a photo? This database keeps a record of all of that. But now let's take a look at one of our base files instead. Just give me a minute. Okay, here we go. The base file is the database that contains information on your users in the list, information about them specifically. If you are running a task from a list you made yourself, this database will be created automatically for you. And you see this user over here. There's a column to the right that says ready. This is a very important status because every module in Telegram Expert will only use users that have the status ready. If it's anything else, it won't accept it. You can change it within the database, but you have to make sure that you have them as ready, especially when you're dealing with larger numbers of users. For example, if it says done, it won't accept it either. It has to be ready. In this instance, we actually have two statuses, one for invites and one for sends. So it is possible for one user to be ready for sends, but not invites, and vice versa. It will affect one, but not the other. And that's pretty much all there is to know about sending messages. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful.